Today's podcast is brought to you by Bespoke Post. Bespoke Post is a monthly membership club delivering awesome boxes of top shelf goods from under the radar brands and small businesses. It's free to join. Every month, Bespoke Post introduces their members to cool new products such as outdoor gear, barware, home and kitchen goods, clothing, and even oysters, based on a preference quiz they fill out when signing up. Here's how it works. You'll get a box assigned to you at the start of each month based on your preferences, and before it's shipped, you'll get a preview of what's to come inside to decide if you like it. You can 1, keep it, 2, swap it for a different box or offer, or 3, skip the month entirely for absolutely no charge. You will only pay for what you want. The box lineup changes every month, so you will always have a chance to find something new you're really into. And there's always free shipping, easy returns, and no hassles ever. You can unbox something new every month in a club hundreds of thousands strong. To get 20% off of your monthly subscription to Bespoke Post, use code CaseyandRay20 at checkout. That's code CaseyandRay20 at checkout.
This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
Hold on, stop.
Welcome back to the Shit Show 2.0.
Okay, boomer.
Damn millennials. Wow.
Did not know that.
Even flirters who are obviously mentally ill. You want to be my wife? Oh, this is going to go downhill real quick.
What is going on? And welcome to Take On the World with
Casey
and Ray.
And me, Mike D. What's up? I was lost there for a second.
You're not having a stroke, are you?
Good thing we took the time to go over it beforehand, so I didn't screw it up. How's it going, guys?
Good, man.
Going good.
You guys both
How's your
looking
New Year
handsome
going?
today?
Yeah.
I'm dealing with snow, bro.
Fuck snow. God.
I think I got like 30 hours overtime this last week doing snow.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
You mean like shoveling snow or like snow?
Watching the inmates shovel snow.
Wow.
It's a good
That's
thing.
a good thing?
I'm gonna I just take comp time and I cash it out all at once, and that'll pay for my trip to Belize.
Nice.
Yeah. So
That's when he's shoveling the other stuff.
yeah,
Shoveling the booger sugar.
that's it. Belize is one of my bucket list dive areas, so I finally get to go and scuba dive in Belize.
Awesome.
I get all this in a wetsuit.
I was gonna say, you just jump in and sink to the bottom and stand there,
Pretty much so.
or do you float?
Actually, I have major buoyancy problems. Like I have a hard time getting underwater if I'm wearing a full 7 mil wetsuit.
Yeah.
So if it's warmer water, I just wear rash guards.
Yeah, none of that makes any sense to me, but I'm sure other people will understand that.
Anybody who scuba dives, I think I have like 34 pounds of weight on me when I go in. Extra
Holy
weight.
shit.
Yeah. So I'm here to take over, guys.
Well, then go ahead. Yeah, we just gonna sit here and drink beer.
Okay, that sounds like fun. So when Casey asked me to do the takeover, I'm like, what should I want to do? Something that fits your show, pop culture, but some also fits what we do, like a little bit of history and murder and mayhem. So I picked the Bob Crane murder, which now I'm sure Ray was a Hogan's Heroes fan.
Absolutely.
I loved Hogan's Heroes. Casey probably never watched it.
Anytime that the toilet flips up and there's tunnels underneath it and people are escaping and all that, I'm all in on that.
Yeah, that was all good. So I don't remember the murder. I was like 8 years old when it happened. So, but I remember like the aftermath and the trial of the person who was accused of it. So I'm gonna give a little history of Bob Crane, and then we'll get into what happened. The history is very important to the possible motive for the murder. So Bob Crane was born July 13th, 1928 in Connecticut. He started playing drums at a young age. He played in a band, the orchestra, marching band, and a jazz band at school. In 1948, he enlisted in the Army National Guard, and he received an honorable discharge in 1950. In 1949, he married his high school sweetheart, Ann Tiersen. Probably pronounced that wrong. They had 3 kids, Robert, Deborah, Karen, and he was murdered on June 29th, 1978. So I was 8 years old.
You were around at that time, right? Right? You were a little youngster at that time, right?
What year was that?
78.
What? Yeah, I was 6, but I'm a very advanced individual, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty familiar with this story because I find it fascinating.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool shit with it.
I didn't know anything. Like Mike told me, but I just asked Mike the other day, what are we going to talk about? And he told me, and I knew the name, but I knew nothing about it. And yeah, wow, what a fucking story! Great story to pick, man.
Did you actually watch Autofocus?
I did. I watched Autofocus just
Okay.
today. Great movie, and like I'm sure we'll get into it. But you mentioned like the drumming. Is Greg Kinnear a real? Was he a real drummer? Does anybody know? Because I mean, he looked pretty good at doing that.
I'm not sure. I never saw Autofocus.
Quite honestly, anyone can pretend to play the fucking drums, Casey.
Okay.
I can play the drums. It's not that fucking difficult.
So I guess kind of music was in his blood because his first real job in 1950, he started a career in radio broadcasting in New York, and then he moved to Connecticut, and then he moved to another place in New York, then he moved to California. Every place he went, his show was like #1, and every time he moved, he would better his position.
He
So when
started out as a DJ, right? A DJ, and he would like play drums in the.
He would
like,
do interviews, play drums. He'd do just all kinds of wacky shit. He was a witty dude in real life. And I guess for that time he was handsome. I think I look better, but that's me. So he was very well received by everybody that he worked with. He was very well received by his guests. Everybody thought he was cordial and kind. And to the most part, he was. Even with the stuff that comes up later with his family, his kids said he was always a great dad. Like he might have been a shitty husband, but he was always a great dad.
Yeah, well, who's a good husband?
Truth. So when he moved to LA, he quickly became the cornerstone of their rating surge. And he was interviewing like Marilyn Monroe, Frank Sinatra, Bob Hope, like all A-list people. And because of those interviews, it got him connected to the movie business. And it led to some like small TV appearances. Some things were uncredited, some things were credited. He guest hosted for Johnny Carson on a daytime show, and I don't know this show. Who Do You Trust? I never heard of it.
I had never heard of that before either.
Who do you trust? I vaguely know of it, but I couldn't tell you any of the details beyond you probably shouldn't trust anybody.
Yeah, truth. He had appearances on The Twilight Zone, Channing, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, and General Electric Theater. After interviewing Carl Reiner, Bob Crane persuaded Reiner to put him in as a guest appearance on the Dick Van Dyke Show. And from that, and the success of that, parlayed him to a regular spot on the Donna Reed Show. So now he's building his TV and an acting career. He was doing both his radio show and he did his spot on Donna Reed until 1964. And then 1965, he was offered a lead role that he was most famous for, which was Colonel Hogan in Hogan's Heroes. And again, if you don't know Hogan's Heroes, that's a shame because it was a controversial show at the time because it was only 20 years after the end of the war. and there was still a lot of bad blood with the Nazis. And here he is, he's spoofing on them. He's joking about the situations that were in World War II. And, some people didn't like it, but most people did. It was a very highly rated show. It aired from 65 to 71. The show was set to follow World War II as comedic escapades of a group of Allied prisoners, POWs, held in the German prison camp. They would do stuff behind enemy lines to try to help the Allies. They would manipulate the German prison guards.
Now, I'm not like I wasn't familiar with this show too much, and I never really watched MASH either. Was MASH before, after, or like at the same time as this show?
I think they overlapped a little bit.
Pretty sure MASH is after, because isn't MASH from the 70s?
It is, but it might have started in 71. There might have been a small overlap, but I'm not positive.
If only we had a way to
I
look this
I
up.
say this all the time. If only there was some device you could hold in your hand.
1972 it started, and it
Okay.
ran for 11 seasons.
Here's what I will say. MASH was in color, and Hogan's Heroes was black and white. So I'm pretty sure that Hogan was, or was it black and white? Maybe
it
I just
started
watched it on a black and white TV.
Hogan was in color.
Okay. I probably started watching it on a black and white TV because, I grew up, shit, rat poor. But the best thing about Hogan there, Casey, is they had tunnels all underneath. They were POWs.
Oh,
So
okay.
they had tunnels, and they would actually just leave and go do things and then come back to the POW camp. The one guard, Schultz,
Sergeant Schultz.
Sergeant Schultz would be like, I know nothing. I see nothing. And like the other dude, the one with the eyeglass, what the hell was
Colonel
his name?
Klink.
Klink would be like, Hogan. Shake his fist like that. Fucking great show. Great show.
So, and there was some what will become some pretty big names in the show. Werner Klemper was Colonel Klink, and he was nominated 5 times for daytime Emmys or primetime Emmys. He won twice. Sergeant Schultz, it was John Banner, and I know he was in other stuff. I just can't. I didn't write it down. I don't remember it. And then Richard Dawson was in the show.
Yeah.
So, and he actually took somebody else's place. He wasn't. I don't think he was in the first season, and then they brought him in, and he took someone else's place.
He's most notable for his role in The Running Man.
Yeah.
Now, all right, I'll let you continue because I have some questions about Richard Dawson once we get into the story a little more.
Okay. So when it was canceled in 71, it was still a popular show. So nobody quite knew why it got canceled. Maybe it was just time. They thought it was the end of its run, but it was still a popular, highly rated show. But the whole time Bob was coming up through all that other stuff, he had a huge secret that people close to him knew, but nobody talked about. He had what we now would call a sexual addiction. And they're thinking that it ended up ending his first marriage. And they're thinking that it could have led to, one of the theories is it could have led to his death. And this was the 60s and 70s when it was, the mid to late 60s, the whole attitude about sex and open exchange of sex was changing like drastically. The era of free love. It made it easy to indulge in these kind of things. And from some of the research I found, like, he didn't think he was doing anything wrong. Like, he didn't feel like he was doing anything wrong, that nobody should feel embarrassed by it. But the studios like frowned on it.
Yeah, he's just being a guy. Like watching that movie, Autofocus, like he said that several times, like to his buddy, like to people that knew, like that knew the secret, and he was just like, I'm just being it's normal. I'm just being a guy. I'm just being a regular person. And it's like, well, not really.
No, maybe not.
Technically, when you're good looking and you have money and you're a celebrity, the world's a different place, Casey. You can pretty much do anything you want and just go, that's normal.
Well, I think in his head, that's what he was doing. Yeah, but even though, I mean, it's still fucking real life. I mean, you can't just go around doing that. You know what I mean? No matter if you're a celebrity. I mean, and if people do, I mean, just keep it a little quieter.
You can't tell me there aren't celebrities that are doing the exact same thing today.
Oh, I'm sure there are, and I'm sure there's like those parties and everything that he was going to, like the orgies and all that stuff. But you know, I know that I know people that have been to those things like that. But for the most part, they tend to keep it a little more hush hush. Well, I mean, and for the most part, he was too. He was trying to, at least for a long time.
The funny thing about him is he didn't really drink much or smoke, but he would always go to bars and clubs because that's where the women were. He'd go to these parties and he would maybe have a drink or two, but he was not a drinker like you would think. Robert Downey Jr. Like the dude was trashed all the time with all the women around him. You know, it just he was just a different person. That they said he was an upright man otherwise. So about that time is when home electronics started becoming a thing. That was too expensive for the regular person, but for a celebrity, it wasn't that hard to get. And Richard Dawson introduced Bob Crane to John Henry Carpenter.
Yeah.
And so nobody confuses it with the John Carpenter from the movies. It's not the same guy. In fact, somebody was arguing with me. I was talking to him about this at work, and he was arguing with me that no, it's John Carpenter, the movie guy. I said, no, it's not.
No, bad people always get 3 names.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that John Carpenter he passed away in like I think 2000s, early 2000s. But all right, so you mentioned Richard Dawson was the guy that introduced him, and they show that in the movie as well. In the movie, it's kind of a little different. He meets him like in the parking lot, and then he says that he's friends with Richard, and and then they all meet up later. But if that is the case, are we led to believe that Dawson might have been into the same stuff, or no, that he just introduced him to?
It's never mentioned.
Because Dawson was weird. He was always kissing the women on the Family Feud.
Yeah,
like he was a little creepy as well.
Yeah, and I mean that's been commented on in other areas, but there was nothing here that said that Richard Dawson had any part in this, other than Bob Crane and Richard Dawson must have been good friends from being on the set all the time, because Richard Dawson ended up being his best man at his second wedding.
Yeah.
So this John Henry Carpenter, he was a regional sales executive for Sonycom, which later became just Sony. And so it put the technology in Bob Crane's hands to videotape his sexual escapades with all these women and photograph and all. So he had albums and albums of photographs of women. He had hundreds and thousands of hours of tape, videotape of him having sex with women. And I guess John Carpenter too, because he was doing the same thing.
Yeah, and together they were like John Henry Carpenter was filming him, and Bob Crane was filming Carpenter, and they would set it up on a tripod and film themselves with women and together. And that was also I had read that it had been questioned whether like he was bi or not, that he possibly might have been having relations with that John Henry Carpenter as well. But in the movie, they're watching one of their tapes together, and Willem Dafoe plays John Henry Carpenter, and then I mentioned earlier Greg Kinnear plays Bob Crane. But Bob Crane is like, pause that for a second. Pause that. What the hell is that on my ass there? He goes, can you rewind that? Can you rewind that? And he's like, yeah, I can rewind it. So he rewinds it, and he like gets real close to the TV, and it's like they're real grainy images. And he goes, what is that? What is that right there? And Willem Dafoe goes, well, that's my hand. And he goes, and Bob Crane was like, what the fuck, dude? He's like, that you had your fingers up my ass. He goes, well, you seem to like it at the time. And he goes, I thought it was her. I thought it was the woman. What the fuck, dude? So he was like very clear, and like they actually stopped talking for a time in the movie anyway after that. So, but I mean, like he's having sex in the same room with the dude, and I don't know.
Little bumpy bump. Oops. Well, Crane and Carpenter would go to clubs and they would team up to pick up women. Basically, Crane would draw them in and Carpenter would be like have a show of money and get them to come back to either his place or the hotel room or wherever they had their stuff set up. And this was happening right under his wife's nose. They said his son Robert found out that his father was unfaithful when he was 16. And him and his wife were married for 21 years. So like the wife must have known for quite some time.
Oh yeah, you had mentioned. Sorry to cut you off here, but you had mentioned the photos. Like prior to him getting all of the video equipment from Carpenter, he was taking Polaroids of all the women that he was with, and like getting them to flash him for the Polaroids. He had in the movie. He had a thing called the smile picture. He would say smile, and they'd flash their breasts. And he had like, hundreds of those pictures, like albums of those photos. So prior to that, yeah, prior to getting the video equipment, he was taking pictures of them. So who knows how many women he was ever with.
So in 1968, Crane had an affair with Cynthia Lynn, who played Helga on Hogan's Heroes. And Cynthia Lynn was replaced with Patricia Olson. Her stage name was Sigrid Valdis. And then when Cynthia Lynn left, Patricia Olson came in. He started a relationship with her. I guess that was serious because that ended his marriage after 21 years. They divorced. Bob and Ann divorced in 1970. And later that same year, Crane married Olson on the set of Hogan's Heroes with Richard Dawson as his best man, which raised some eyebrows about him so newly divorced and getting married on the set because, back then, a lot of this stuff was hidden from the public by the studios. Like the studios didn't want this stuff out. Anything that could be a detriment to them put money in their pocket, they didn't want people to know. Nowadays, it's less of an issue because people are so sterile to it. But back then, it was still a big thing. So some people were like, I can't believe they're doing this on the set, but okay. Olson and him had a child, Scotty, in 1971, and he'll come in again really later on after everything's said and done. Now, apparently Olson knew all about these affairs. She didn't partake in them, but like she knew what was going on.
So before we move on, Mike, I got to ask, what kind of lunatic gets married more than once?
I don't know. One who likes driving a car into a brick wall. I don't know.
Yeah, that's like, I'm going to smash my head into a fucking wall. It didn't hurt enough the first time. So now I'm going to run faster into that same brick wall. And I hope it feels better.
Oh, that's not quite enough blood.
Yeah.
Actually, what I've been doing, I talked about this on the show coming out this Thursday. I do all my research and then I'll stick it into ChatGPT to make me a script with the research that I wrote. And ChatGPT corrected my research and said that he was married 3 times. But they listed Olson and Sigrid as 2 separate wives, but it's the same person.
Same person, yeah. You can't do that. You know what you do? You get information and you just go, hey, Casey, here's what I want to talk about. So figure it out.
That's what John does to me.
You mentioned, I hate to be, speaking of Johnny, I hate to be Johnny jump ahead here, but you mentioned the son that they had together. In the movie, when he mentions that she's pregnant, his manager said, I thought you had a vasectomy.
He had a vasectomy.
Right. And he says in the movie, he says it didn't take, or it leaks. He said it leaks.
When she got pregnant and when they got married, they're like, she would have had the baby like right away if the vasectomy took. So they say he had the vasectomy in 68. He was divorced in 70. and he was married that same year. So
here's my take on that. I think he lied so that any paternity test would come back. He could just say, I had a vasectomy. My doctor gave me a little note here that said, yep, vasectomy. And he never had it.
Well,
that very well could be.
I go down rabbit holes. I was reading about this. It came out later. Someone admitted it was from someone else. It wasn't his child.
Who, Scotty?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't come across that at all.
We'd have to look at pictures to see if he's as good looking as his dad or if he's an ugly fuck. Like
he actually got into acting, and
like
he's
Adam
not.
Sandler. Like if he looks like Adam Sandler and Little Nicky, there's a good shot he ain't his kid.
He's not a bad looking dude, and he got into acting for a while. I don't know if he still is, but
yeah, no, I read that it came out later that she was pregnant prior to them getting together.
Hey, Hollywood's crazy like that.
I don't know. They got together in 68 or 69, and they had Scotty in 71.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Hollywood's a crazy place, Mike.
Math doesn't even work out there.
Speaking of that, we talked to Catherine Mary Stewart 2 weeks ago. Speaking of math, how math doesn't work in Hollywood. Night of the Comet and what's the other one? The Last Starfighter. They're 40 years old and she's only 45. How does that work?
Really? Oh, okay.
In a world where podcasts have become bland and stale, one podcast dares to stand above. Barrel Age Flicks Podcast.
We're reviewing drinks,
breaking down movies, busting each other's balls. And we're big in Hong Kong.
Barrel Age Flicks Season 4. It's in the bottle.
Yeah, yo! Available on Spotify, Apple Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, TikTok, YouTube, Patreon, and OnlyFans.
Also in 1968, while they were still doing Hogan's Heroes, the cast of Hogan's Heroes, it was Colonel Klink, Sergeant Schultz, Leon Askin. I don't know who the hell that is. They did a movie together called The Wicked Dreams of Paula Schultz, and the movie was panned. It was panned by critics. It was panned by fans. Nobody liked it. Maybe that's why they ended Hogan's Heroes in 71.
What, this was a spin-off of Hogan's Heroes, a movie?
No, it was just a movie that they all got involved in and did together.
Oh, okay.
Prior to Hogan's Heroes, or during Hogan's Heroes, when they had off time, Crane would do dinner theater. He would, kind of get his celebrity out there, and he'd get paid to go do dinner theater all over the country. So after Hogan's Heroes ends, that's what he started doing on a regular basis, traveling dinner theater. And apparently he would do it in a way where him and John Carpenter could meet up in places, do their thing, do their videotaping, and it wasn't really interrupted by that. He didn't do much. He had a couple appearances, and then in 73, he was offered a leading role in Disney's Super Dad. And the thing about that was he was supposed to be this wholesome, goofy father who was trying to be cool with his daughter's friends. But while he was on the set, he was bringing those photo albums in and like showing them off. Like, hey, look at these titties. Look at this chick I was sleeping with. Look at this. And like everybody, like, well, hold it. Disney's like, you can't do that, dude. Like, get that shit out of here. This is Disney. It's not Disney today. It was Disney back then, where it was wholesome,
right?
Milk and cookies.
Disney today is like, oh, Eddie Murphy, you want to play a donkey even though you're banging transvestites in the middle of the night? Yeah, we don't care. Fuck it. You're wholesome. Come on down. Totally different world.
But again, like I said, Bob didn't feel like he was doing anything wrong, and that was
a guy.
That was according to his son.
And technically, he actually didn't do anything wrong. Technically, because
I think HR would disagree.
Well,
technically, if you got a big fucking camera set up in the room, like women should obviously see. Like, we're not talking about little micro cameras inside a teddy bear.
No.
We're talking about big, giant fucking cameras.
Yeah, and plus these are what Mike's talking about is what he was going, because they show this in the movie as well. When he got the Super Dads gig, he was taking the photo album around. Like it was books and books
Yeah.
of Polaroids.
Well, once again,
So, well, that's what I mean. So once again, right? What Ray's saying is right. These women were like he smile, and they were showing their breasts,
It wasn't
knowing that he was
anything
taking their photo.
illegal. It wasn't anything illegal. It was something that the studio would find morally
Oh, right. You can't. I mean, yeah.
questionable.
I mean,
yeah, they're upset if a woman shows her fucking ankles, for fuck's sake, back then.
That's true. What year
Right,
was
like-
when two man and woman finally laid in the same bed on TV?
Right. What year was that?
That was it wasn't Lucille Ball.
No.
Yeah. I think it was.
I think it was on I Love Lucy.
Could have been.
But what you know what they used to like, this is a sidetrack. You know what they used to do? So they weren't in bed together. They would put a hole in the middle of the bed, and one of them put their foot through the hole and touch the floor with their foot. And that way they could say they weren't lying in bed together.
Yes.
Yeah, but this is the ridiculous part about that whole thing. What married couple didn't sleep in the same bed in 1652? Like, I don't understand why that was a thing on TV. Like, oh my God, we can't show married people in the same bed. I've never understood that.
I don't know.
Like, I never understood the whole pajamas and nightcap thing that they put dudes in on TV. I never understood that.
I've never worn pajamas and nightcap to bed.
I still want to get some, though.
Mary Kay and Johnny was the first program to show a couple sharing a bed together in 1948. Mary Kay became pregnant in 1948, and after unsuccessfully trying to hide her pregnancy, the producers wrote it into the show. 1948, so it's a while ago.
Oh shit, I thought it was well after that.
Yeah, there was something significant in Lucy though that happened because we had talked about that on we did a quiz show on here. I think it was you versus Bill Ray.
Yeah. Did I win?
Probably.
I don't even remember doing that.
I can't imagine why.
So Disney, rather than like take the chance of being publicly embarrassed, they just quietly cut ties with Crane, and he had one small role. He never had a lead role with Disney again. He had one small role three years later, and that was his last Disney appearance, and it was in a film called Gus. Never heard of it.
Yeah, did anyone ever see that Super Dads movie? No.
Those early 70s, mid 70s Disney movies, and I couldn't do it. Like they just did not. I was too busy watching horror films.
Yeah,
so he went back to doing dinner theater to make money. He had a couple roles on like Police Woman, Quincy, Love Boat, and I think the Love Boat appearance was his last TV appearance. But all through this whole thing, his activities with Carpenter never ceased.
Yeah, and prior to doing the whole time that he was on Hogan's Heroes too, it might have mentioned the dinner theater thing, but in the movie Autofocus, he was they were showing him like playing in a band at strip clubs, like different strip clubs around LA, I guess it was.
Well, he would do that when they went to anytime they went to a club. If there was a drum set there, he would do that to help attract the women.
Gotcha. Okay.
He would just go up, start playing the drums because he wasn't a drinker or a smoker. So that was more his style. And that would get the women flocking to him. Everybody likes a musician.
Hell yeah, they do.
So he and Olsen separated in 1977, and their divorce was set to be final just a few weeks after Crane died. So now we're to the actual meat and potatoes. June 29th, 1978. He was living in a temporary residence in Scottsdale, Arizona. Basically, when he went and he did these dinner theaters for say it was a 2-week engagement or whatever, that was part of his deal. He would get an apartment, someplace where he could stay. And so he was staying, and this, they show the apartment on the inside. It looks like a shitty apartment, but you see the place from the outside, it's condos.
Yeah.
Like you look at it from the outside, it's condos. So it had separate rooms. It wasn't like you walked in and the bed was in the living room.
Right.
Well, his bed was probably in the living room because it's easier to film there.
Probably.
He didn't want to go any further than the living room.
Yeah.
He was doing a show called Beginner's Luck, which I never heard of either. Crane was supposed to be at a lunch meeting with his dinner theater co-star, Victoria Ann Barry. And he didn't show up. She got concerned. Barry went to Crane's apartment, discovered the body at a grisly crime scene. The thing is, when they found the body, they couldn't identify him because the way he was laying, that side of his face was crushed in. There was, he was found on a bed, shirtless and partially covered by a flowered bed sheet. He was bludgeoned to death. There were gashes on his forehead, which caused profuse bleeding because there was blood everywhere. There was blood on the walls. There was blood on the pillow. There was blood on a mirror. The pillow was soaked with blood. The mattress was stained on the ceiling. So they could not identify him right away. Like they figured this is who it is because it was supposed to be here, but they couldn't identify him. After learning that the apartment was leased by Windmill Dinner Theater, the police asked the manager of the theater, Ed Beck, to come identify the corpse. After the medical examiner rolled him over, looked at the other side of his face, he had his Bob Crane. But Scottsdale Police Department did not have a homicide division at the time. And
yeah, that's pretty crazy to me. Like 1978, like was nobody getting killed in Scottsdale, Arizona in the 70s?
they had 3
Like,
murders that year, including Crane's,
holy shit.
in the entire year.
Would you want your tax dollars going to a whole division dedicated to 3 murders?
No, you would just have your cops handle it.
Fuck, I could handle that. If my neighborhood had 3 murders, I could figure it out. I could save the taxpayers a lot of money.
The problem was
And-
the
and yet
Scottsdale
this
Police
is-
Department could not handle it.
yeah,
they
and
screwed
yet
up
this is
everything.
still unsolved.
Yeah. They screwed up every single thing about this investigation. They had called his family, and his family flew in. They let the family, before the crime scene was completely gone through, let the family come through and take stuff out of the room. So any evidence could have been gone. Crane's blood was
Not only that, you're contaminating like the fingerprints,
Yep.
everything.
Well, keep in mind, though, they don't have DNA testing or any of that shit back then.
No,
there was
yeah.
DNA testing, but it was in its infancy.
That's what I
So-
mean. It wasn't real.
No, in fact, that was a little Johnny jump ahead because they tested the blood 3 times over the next 20 years.
Yeah.
There was blood on Crane's day planner, which I guess it was close to his daughter's high school graduation because there was blood all over the date. I'm not sure what that had to do anything, but that was in the research. So they used that day planner to get contacts of all the women that he had, because they're going through the apartment now. They're finding all these books with all these pictures. They're finding these thousands and thousands of hours of videotapes. And now this comes to the light of the public. The public knows what he was up to now. Because as soon as it hit the media that Bob Crane was killed in Scottsdale, it became a circus. And the investigators realized, holy shit, we're out of our depth. The other thing about the crime scene, there was an electrical cord wrapped around Crane's neck. And that's a choke or a stabbing usually signifies a personal connection in some way with the victim. The violent and gruesome details of the murder suggest a level of intimacy or personal connection between Crane and his assailant. So I don't know who came in to investigate this after Scottsdale. They don't really say, but they did call for help. It was probably the state police. They're homicide detectives. But by the time they got there, everything was so screwed up. There was evidence mishandled. Blood evidence was mishandled. It was horrible. So when they found out about the videotape equipment, like this is high-end stuff, that discovery led him to John Carpenter, and he quickly became the lead suspect in the whole thing. Not only was Carpenter one of the last people to see Crane alive, the murder weapon turned out to be a camera tripod. And like Casey said, these weren't like the camera I have out here. They were these big ass cameras, and they had big, thick tripods, like almost like studio tripods. They were heavy as shit.
Well, that's another thing that I read, though, that it was always said that it was a camera tripod, but they were never 100% sure about that because it was never found. The murder weapon was never found. They had always just assumed that it was a camera tripod.
See, now you Johnny'd me again because he always finds some fact that I can't find.
That's the shitty thing is that they said, well, that's probably what it was, but you know, I'm not gonna jump ahead. You go ahead.
So they went to they found out that Carpenter had a car rental, and they went through his car and they found blood evidence and tissue evidence in the car. The blood type matched Crane's, but like you said, DNA was nowhere near what it is now. Like they couldn't get any kind of definitive match at all. Bob's son had said in the weeks leading up to the homicide that Crane was saying that Carpenter had become a nuisance in his life and he wanted to end the friendship. Probably Crane got sick of just pulling all the chicks and this guy getting to bang everybody.
My theory is that he got now he's not as famous anymore, so he doesn't have the money to throw around. So the hanger-ons have to fucking go.
That was also brought up in the movie too. They were like, Bob had said he wanted to like stop it all and give it up and like change his life around and stuff. And that was one of the things. He was like, you know, you don't think you're pulling all these chicks yourself, right? He's like, it's me that's bringing the chicks into you, you know. Yeah. And that's what they were thinking, that he got pissed off and that he's the one that killed him. But
yeah, also if Casey put his finger up my ass, I'd probably have some lingering issues with
that. So that's exactly what the police thought, not the finger in the butt, but Carpenter without Crane would have no way to continue to feed his own sex addiction.
Yeah.
So DNA testing was done on samples from the rental again in 1990, and the age of the samples left the test inconclusive. The tissue samples were lost due to some kind of clerical error, so they couldn't be tested. But they did have detailed photos of the tissue samples that they had, and a scientist confirmed that yes, it was brain matter in the car.
That's my favorite part of this whole story. Dude's driving around in a bloody car with brains in it, and they're like, we're not sure if he did it. The tripod's not in there. I guess he's innocent. Gonna have to let him go.
So the judge had ruled that the results were admissible, even though they were inconclusive. In June 1992, John Carpenter was charged with murder. And the trial did not go well for the prosecution at all. The defense really did an excellent job of getting his dude off.
They did some OJ level shit on this.
Yeah, they did. They highlighted all of the police errors. They highlighted mishandling of evidence. They highlighted the fact that the family was in to get stuff out. There were two witnesses that saw Bob and John having dinner together the night before, and everything seemed okay. And they used that to say, well, look, there's no bad blood.
Yeah.
They weren't arguing. They were having a nice dinner together. The defense also offered a theory that a husband or boyfriend of one of Crane's conquests was likely responsible. And they provided some evidence, including a man who taped a mutilated picture of Bob Crane on his ex-girlfriend's door because Bob Crane had banged her while they were together.
Oh shit. See, I didn't read that. I missed that.
I'm sure there's a lot of angry husbands out there that were like, yeah, fuck that guy. I'm glad he got his head bashed in.
I'm sure there is. Even his ex-wife Ann was floated as a suspect. So, look, there was plenty of reasonable doubt. He was acquitted of all charges. And then John Carpenter died in 1998. So Robert's son still maintained that Carpenter was guilty. But, family can never let go. Like if everything pointed to one person, and I'm saying, look, no tripod, but there's blood and brains in the car. This is probably the dude.
Yeah, if you find my brains in Casey's car, he killed me. I'm flat out. I'm telling you that right now. He's
all
not
because of an errant butt touch.
It's because of an errant butt touch. And if my brains were in Casey's car, it's not just magically I threw it in there myself.
Well, those photos were inconclusive, right?
Nah, they know it was brains.
No, a scientist said that was brain matter, period.
But the cops, who were ill-equipped at the time, were like, I wonder what that is.
Okay.
I don't know. It might be jelly. I don't know. Maybe they had fucking liver for lunch. I don't know what the hell's going on in this rental.
Oh, it's duck liver pate.
Yeah.
So Robert, Bob's son, offered the theory that Crane's second wife, Olson, must have been involved because she benefited financially more than anybody else. Because the divorce wasn't final, she got everything. Now we're back to Scotty. Good old Scotty. Entrepreneurial young man here.
Yeah,
he took all the photos
into this
and videos, and he started a porn website where he charged people to watch Bob Crane bang chicks and look at the boobies.
$19.95 a month. BobCrane.com. It's not there anymore. I looked.
What they eventually did is it ended up being a memorial. Like the family was outraged, and it went on for years, and then it ended up being a memorial page, and then it just disappeared.
What I don't understand is why Bob didn't have enough foresight to see that he could have sold the videos and made money, and he wouldn't have been broke. And
well, in the movie Autofocus, and I'm not sure if you're going to go there or not because we're already past his death, but he had mentioned to John Carpenter they were going to try and make a porn movie with like another with another famous actress, and Carpenter was like, she would never do that, and Crane was like, she's an actress, she'll if we pay her enough she'll do it. And that was when he got Super Dads, and then Carpenter was like, oh well, I guess we're not going to do that now.
Oh shucks. So we mentioned the 2002 film Autofocus. The critics loved the film. The fans thought it sucked. I never saw it.
I thought it was okay. I wouldn't mind seeing it redone though. Like this is a movie where I wouldn't mind seeing like a newer modern take on it with more information. It's a good movie though. It's good at great acting. I love Willem Dafoe. He's a great actor.
I do too. I like him a lot.
The movie was good, but my problem is with any movie like this, because the family doesn't want their loved one to look like a piece of garbage, that you're not really getting the whole story.
Right.
There's a lot of pieces that are just going to be missing.
His first son and the other two children from the first wife all said that he was a good father. He always tried to make their life, fun. He was always attentive to their needs, that his fame never got in the way of him spending time with them. Not that he was a good husband, but.
Well, once again, being a good dad is different than being a good person. It's a weird dichotomy there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what the difference is, but like, there are people who are really shitty dads and everything else in their lives, but it's just a weird thing where there's like these dudes, they're like, yeah, he murdered 18 people, but man, his kids loved him. Took him to baseball practice and got him ice cream. And there's a weird fucking thing there with that.
The same goes for like there's great people too who are like great people in their like work life, whatever they're doing outside of life, and they're real shitty dads.
Oh yeah.
So it goes both ways.
So I had mentioned that the DNA was tested twice more. Mm-hmm. In 2015, the Scottsdale police tested the last of the blood samples from the rental. and they found 2 DNA donors, neither of which were Crane or Carpenter. What do you do with that? And there's still no brain matter to test.
Yeah, they never recovered that.
No. Clerical error. Somebody walked off with it. I got Bob Crane's brain.
Yeah, the whole thing is just a giant mess. So here's my advice to people. If you got an ugly friend and you're banging chicks with him, eventually it's going to go south if you're the good looking one. So don't get yourself murdered.
That's been my curse my whole life.
Right. If you're going to bang chicks with your friend, make sure it's another good looking dude. So neither one of you has to kill either of you.
So when I was in the Navy, quick story. This is how me and John always end up going 2 hours. When I was in the Navy, we were up at Great Lakes, and there was a dude, our buddy Ollie from California. He was like this good-looking blonde surfer dude. Like the girls always flocked to him, so we hung out with him. You know, he's okay. And one day something happened. We were in the city, and he got shot in the face, just on one side. It hit his cheekbone, took out a chunk of his face. He went into shock, didn't show up to roll call like 3 days later. And then when he showed up, he hadn't gotten any medical treatment because he was in shock. Just, I don't know how he got from Chicago back up to base. Because he disappeared in the street. Like, we were there talking to the cops, and we said, well, one of our buddies got shot. He said, where is he? I said, I don't know. He should be right here. Anyway, so this side of his face was all fucked up. And this side of his face was still surfer boy. So we went to restaurants and made this side of the face sit towards the room. So girls would still come over. Then they come over and say, oh my God, he's fucked up. I said, I'm okay.
That's the original clickbait right there.
What was his name? Give him a shout out again.
Ollie. I love you, Ollie.
Ollie.
Miss you, bro.
Let's do a little we forgot to do the house cleaning at the beginning, so let's do a little house cleaning here. We are all a part of the Deluxe Edition Network. You can find all the other great shows over at deluxeeditionnetwork.com. And the reason I say that now is let's do a little round table here, like Horsing Around does from over on the network. So what's everyone else's thoughts? Let's start with you, Ray. Do you think it was Carpenter?
I do believe it was him 100%. I think he was jealous. And when he told him to agitate the gravel and go away, he was like, well, I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to fucking beat your brains in and run off. 100%. Allegedly, because I don't want to get sued. But I allegedly think that it was him.
He's dead, so you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, he's probably got family, so.
I don't know. I didn't read anything about. I didn't dig too deep into him yet. I will later. Mike, what do you think?
Well, through the whole thing, I would say, yeah, absolutely. Then you get to 2015, and neither one of the DNA donors matched Crane or Carpenter. Blood could have been in the car from anywhere, and that was the biggest piece of circumstantial evidence that they had. That there was tissue matter and blood in the car. And it kept on going back to that during the trial. So without that, I'm not sure. I'm on the fence. I lean towards, yeah, he did it, but.
Let me lean you in that direction, though, because we got the cord around the neck. All right. He was obviously killed with that and then mutilated with the fucking tripod, which is a camera tripod, which.
Both connected to his profession.
Okay.
And they did some hinky
tripod
shit.
Was never found.
Right. So he took it with him.
It was never found. You don't know that it was a tripod.
Well, in the investigation, they don't just say they thought it was a tripod. They said that the murder weapon turned out to be a tripod, and that was because of the depressions left on the body.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
So they must have had something like
two marks or something like together.
Two marks or
and there was probably like a camera laying on the floor with no tripod. Like these investigators were not very sophisticated. So they were like, let's see, what's What's different about this room? Well, the couch is still here, so that's not the murder weapon. Is the fridge in the kitchen? Yeah, shit, that's not the murder weapon. What's missing from this room?
What's not plugged in?
What's that camera supposed to be sitting on?
Yeah.
So yeah, up until the 2015 blood sample testing. Now that blood sample could be. That's why I'm on the fence, because it could be so degraded that they're not going to get. And if it was handled so poorly, it could have been contaminated at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm leaning towards John Carpenter, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. So like when they say they tested that sample in 2015, so you're telling me that from 1978 to 2015 that sample stayed perfectly exactly the way that blood is supposed to stay for you to sample it.
Also, they say it was the last of the blood sample. So it was a tiny little bit that they had left.
Mm-hmm.
But the technology in 2015 for DNA far surpasses anything they had back when they originally tested it. So I don't know.
Sure. I would like to see.
I just feel like it was too old at that point, and they probably just had it laying on a fucking shelf.
You could
Right, that's what I mean.
On a rag that they took a rag and rubbed it on the car and threw it on the shelf, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll
test this.
Yeah, we'll test that later."
And also,
so Casey, you're leaning Carpenter.
no. So the other thing was the brain matter. I would like to see pictures of the brain matter. I'd like other scientists to have a look at the brain matter. So those scientists from 1978 took a look at those photographs of the brain matter, and they were the only
that was later.
That was in 92.
Yeah.
Oh, 92. Okay.
Yeah, the blood was tested, and the tissue pictures were thoroughly examined in 92, and that's what allowed them to go forward with the trial.
Right. They reopened the case, and that's when real actual people who were like scientists and investigators looked at this shit, and they're like, why are there brains in the car?
Yeah.
Why did no one think that was a big deal?
It wasn't just Jimmy Joe at the impound saying, hey, there's something in the car here.
Dude maintained his innocence until his death. It's like most of the time, for the most part, when shit like that goes down and it's like a big case like that, they're like, I did it. I was the one.
No, they don't.
That rarely happens. Deathbed confessions very rarely happen.
These assholes are, they took that they landed on the moon to their deathbed.
All right, so let's break the news here. Mike and I are going to be starting a Berks County. It's called Berks County Unsolved Deluxe Edition. It's like a true crime thing. Our area where we live, there's a lot of unsolved murders. This kind of like reminds me of one that we'll be touching on briefly. We did it before, and Mike, I think you might have talked about it on your show, and Horsing Around talked about it on their show. But the Gary Redner murder.
Yeah.
He was a big wig in the Berks County area. His family owned a bunch of grocery stores, but like the word on the street is that he was like sleeping around with a lot of women and stuff as well. Not to the degree that I think Bob Crane was doing. I don't know if he was filming it or anything like that, but one of the speculations is that one of the husbands that caught him or caught the wife is the one that did this. So like that's all the women that Crane was sleeping with, some of them had to be married.
Yeah.
You don't think one of those dudes got really pissed off one time? And
well, at least one did, because he mutilated a picture and put it on his ex-girlfriend's door.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know this, but husbands don't like their wives sleeping with other dudes. I don't know if you knew that was a thing, but it's kind of a common thing that I'm aware of.
Right. So why wouldn't one of them murder Bob Crane?
Well,
I think it's very possible.
It's 100% possible, but none of them had his brains in their car.
That's true.
Well,
or brains.
we don't know
period.
that though, because we don't know that because they were so focused on Carpenter.
Had they checked the rental car and there had been no blood or brains in it, I'd be like, all right, the dude probably didn't do it.
You got a guy who was bludgeoned to death. His head's cracked open all over the wall, and you're driving a car and it's got brain matter in it.
I mean, and
Allegedly.
you've had your finger in his ass. I mean, come on.
That's alleged. That's alleged.
Allegedly.
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, hey, it's still unsolved. They never convicted the dude, so
I should go into
Who knows?
police work. I think I'd be good at this. I could have solved this thing for them. I would have walked in and said, have any of his friends stuck their finger up his ass recently? All right. We have motive.
Guilty.
well, we're gonna try to get to the bottom of some more of this because as I do, I deep dive, and I've already reached out to one of the sons about coming onto the podcast. So
You did not.
We shall see.
Scotty?
Yeah, so I've reached out, so hopefully hear something back within the next couple days.
That would be cool.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, and Mike, you're more than welcome to come back for that one if he does agree to do it.
I mean, the first thing I'd ask was, how do you feel about your dad running around like that? So that's probably not the question he wants to hear.
Well, once again, celebrities all run around. That's what they do. So that it's not that uncommon. Look at how many times these people get married, get divorced. And once again, we interview celebrities, and you're not all bad people.
One of the things that I read,
I have to preface.
I heard your disclaimer before.
I have to throw my disclaimer out there. Not all celebrities are bad people, because if you listen to when I talk, you will think all celebrities are bad people. That is not the case. I love celebrities. They are very nice to me. I have never interviewed a celebrity that was not nice to me.
dude. Anything else about the Bob Crane
Nope, that's it.
unsolved
We took
murder?
it on.
Yeah, dude, this was awesome, man. Thank you for taking over. Please plug away where people can find you, all that good stuff.
You're going to want to check out Take on the World Pod on most of the socials and on YouTube, TOTW Pod. And every Thursday, except for December and the beginning of January, we release a new video podcast. We do this kind of stuff. We do history. We do, like, when I'm with my son, we do nerdy stuff because we're both nerds from way back. And what else did I? Oh, we used to do beer reviews. We're not doing them anymore. I just drink the beer.
You should do that. You should still do the beer reviews for do your for the reels. The one a 1 minute reel of a beer review. Tag them, and
All you really have to do is just take a sip and go, it drank pretty good.
I can drink it.
That's good.
That's it.
That's good.
That's a good beer right there.
That's the review.
That's it. TOTW.
Awesome, dude.
Check us out.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. This was fun. Real quick, since we forgot to do it, also the podcasts of the month, go check them out. Bev's Video Kingdom, Barrel Aged Flicks, and the Kindness Matters podcast over at deluxeeditionnetwork.com. If you'd like to check out all of our previous shows, go over to deluxeedition.show. Come over and check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/deluxeeditionpod, or check us out on Instagram at Deluxe Edition Pod. You can buy a t-shirt at whatamaneuver.net/collection/deluxe-edition. Mike is sporting one of those right there, one of the Den Network shirts. You can get one of those over there as well. Let's see, Ray, what do you got?
This is the first edition.
First
edition shirt.
Oh, I got nothing. Go over to 10 Cent Beer Night Podcast on TeePublic and get your official bootleg merchandise for, whatever you want. Just send me a message. You want to take on the world shirt? I'll make you one.
Cease and desist on the way.
That's how it works.
And once again, check out all the other great shows over at deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
I can't say enough about the Deluxe Edition Network. I'm proud to be a part of it, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing, and it's great shows on there. So there's something for everybody.
Yeah, thank you, buddy. And we just added another one. I keep fucking the name of it up. It's sort of kind of funny or kind of sort of funny. One of those.
Sort of kind of funny.
Sort of kind of funny. It's a great show. It's a sister and brother, and they are not sort of kind of funny. They are funny. They're a good show. Go check them out.
Me and my sister be punching each other. We couldn't do that show.
All right, boys. Anything else?
All right, guys. That's it.
No. Good to
Go
see you,
take
Mike.
on the world.
Later, brother.
Later.